The Bible Forum. I'm Warren Sprouse. This is Sunday evening. It's March 17th, 2019. We have an election cycle underway, midterm kind of a thing, and there are Democrats by the scores that are throwing their hat in the ring, and a goodly portion of them are openly espousing socialism. They're not calling it that. Well, Bernie is. The rest of them are not calling it that, but that's what it is. I thought it might be interesting to look a little bit at what socialism represents. Tony Perkins, he's the Family Research Council guy. He's criticizing House and Senate Democrats for promoting a bill that would protect kittens in research experiments from harm. And this comes just days after the Democrats en masse opposed a bill that would protect human babies who survive abortion. Caring about kittens, not caring about human beings. And it's, well, no, that's a fetus. That's not really a human being. You leave it alone long enough, it would be. It's in that family. And after 3 months, it pretty much is. Theoretically, it is at conception. Senator Jeff Merkley, a Democrat from Oregon, introduced the Kittens in Traumatic Testing Ends Now Act on March 7th, would have halted experiments within the U.S. Department of Agriculture that causes pain to kittens. The kittens aren't even dying. USDA laboratory breed kittens and will euthanize them once the experiment is complete, but the experiments themselves don't kill the cat. Nearly 3,000 kittens have been used in research since 1982, apparently. And the press release stated, the Kitten Act will protect these innocent animals from being needlessly euthanized in government testing and make sure that they can be adopted by loving families instead. Senator Cory Booker in New Jersey running for president, and a GOP representative by the name of Brian Mast in Florida. They are listed as co-sponsors of the House version. Along the same line, we've got an economist who is reporting that a transgender woman who identifies as a man has sued Japan's Supreme Court over a ruling earlier this year that requires sterilization before the state will officially recognize someone as the opposite gender. How'd you like to do that here in this country? Transgenderism is also known as gender dysphoria. That's the medical or legal term. It's classified as a mental disorder in the 5th edition of the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, the DSM-5, published by the American Psychiatric Association. They're a little behind the times, wouldn't you think? As an economist notes, Japanese courts may seem to be more concerned with maintaining social harmony than defending an individual's rights. Recent polls have suggested that Japan is gradually becoming more socially liberal, with over 70% of respondents in a January survey saying they're in favor of stronger legal protections for gay and or transgender people. When you read or hear about social or political liberalism, you're seeing a transformation of societies from objective standards of morality to subjective standards of morality, meaning what is moral in my view is moral. Doesn't matter whether it is or it isn't. If I think it is, that's what it is. Objective morality relates to rules, to standards, moral standards and others, which are rooted in values that are completely outside the individual person. Morals and values adopted to protect individuals, to protect families, to protect societies from moral, economic, and physical destruction. That more and more people are gravitating to a self-oriented moral system is an indication that something is wrong, that something or someone other than the God who made this world and everything in it is at work influencing societies. And trust me when I tell you, it's a moral, spiritual power play. It's a pull and a tug. So what does political socialism really look like? Our self-declared Democratic Socialist candidate for president, Bernie Sanders, has been clear about his support of policies such as universal health care, free college tuition. But CNN found that when he first ran for the Senate in the 1970s, he advocated full-blown socialist policies such as nationalizing major industries, including energy companies, factories, and banks. He also campaigned for a 100% income tax for the wealthiest Americans. If you were a wealthy American to be taxed at 100%, what would you do? You would stop making money. If you're 10 years old, you know what that means. If all the wealthy people in this world stopped making money, about half of you would be out of work. And Bernie can't see that. Last month, CNN's Wolf Blitzer asked Sanders whether he wanted America to become a socialist nation. He said, President Trump said in a State of the Union address, and I'm quoting him now, "This is the president speaking, America will never be a socialist country." Now what if you get elected president? Will that hold true? Sanders replied, "If I'm elected president, we will have a nation in which all people have health care as a right, whether Trump likes it or not. We're going to make public colleges and universities tuition free. We're going to raise the minimum wage to a living wage of at least $15 an hour. And whether Trump likes it or not, when I talk about human rights, you know what that also means? That our kids and our grandchildren have the human right to grow up in a planet that is healthy and habitable." He's talking about global warming. "And it is a real disgrace and an embarrassment," he said, "that we have a president who rejects science, who does not even understand that climate change is real and caused by human activity. A president who does not understand what this planet will look like in years to come if we do not go forward boldly and transform our energy system away from fossil fuels." On the other side, the Department of Defense has recently, I believe as this week, formally announced the details of the new Trump policy on transgender troops. It specifies that personnel must serve in their biological sex and not their preferred gender. Although current transgender troops who don't meet the standards will be allowed to stay. The new policy means that no one will be booted from the military, although men and women who sign up for the military after this policy takes place will not receive an exemption. And that policy is going into effect in less than 30 days. It was written at the directive of President Trump, and it overturns the Obama-era policy that allowed personnel to serve under their gender identity, a purely foolish, dangerous, and often disgusting thing. A policy that provides the untenable situation of men rooming with women and vice versa. I know they're not doing that. You don't know that. In battlefield situations, what happens? Persons who have sex reassignment surgery or are diagnosed with gender dysphoria will now be ineligible for the military under this new policy. The new policy advances military readiness, according to the Department of Defense, not social experimentation. The same department explained the policy, saying to maintain a military force that is worldwide deployable and combat effective, that military must set high standards, and all military members must sacrifice to meet these standards. In fact, today, just over 70% of prime military age Americans cannot meet the military's standards. This, my friends, is what our liberal, progressive, socialistic, secular social policies have wrought. Have you noticed how many movies have been produced with superheroes? Men and women who individually save the world? And you think that's just simply entertainment. Hollywood has not been about simple entertainment for the last 60 years, if it was ever. And every bit of it has been about religion on one level or another. And even if God is not mentioned, the very railing against God-ordained order of things is clear. This world hates God. That's what all these significant changes are about. It's not about you and me. It's not about making our life better. It's a fist in the face of God. Don't doubt me.